Chapter 13. John's first short bout of seasickness was over almost as soon as it had started. By the time the ship's bell had announced the end of the break, and the hundreds of men aboard the Fearless had hoisted their tables up to the beams again and begun their afternoon duties, he was feeling less nauseous, though he was still battered and bruised all over from the blows of Mr. Higgins' rattan cane. "Boys," said Jabez, "'tis cutlass inspection this afternoon. Cleaning and sharpening is what they do need. Kit, when you've finished cleaning Mr. Toss's shoes, fetch out the long cases by the bulkhead there, so Mr. Toss can cast his eye across 'em. No, John, not you. You're to come with me. Take your shoes off, leave 'em here. Be naught but a hindrance where you're going. Now, lads." He jerked his thumb towards the low bar that ran across the room, on which his parrot was perched. "Keep an eye on Horace. Out of sorts he is today. Tweaked my nose sharp this morning, and now he's sulking." John followed Jabez up to the deck above. The ship was sailing fast. The coast of Midlothian was slipping past, and Edinburgh was very far behind. Soon they would have left the sheltered waters of the Firth of Forth and be heading out to sea. "See over there," said Jabez, leaning on the hammock nets and pointing towards a huge black rock that reared up out of the sea nearby. "I seen a great whale there once. Monsters there are in Scottish waters. Things unearthly that no mortal should know of. Now, lay aloft, get up them ratlins." The command came with no change of tone or expression, and for a moment John didn't understand. Jabez jerked his chin upwards. Beside him, the ratlines, rope ladders with rope rungs, ran upwards to a horrible height, ending at a platform halfway up the dizzyingly high mast. John felt the blood drain from his face. "Only one way to learn how to get aloft," Jabez said calmly. "That's to get on. Do it. Here, your face is the colour of old pea soup. You ain't going to be sick again. I seen you cast your dinner overboard." No, I'm not sick now. It's just that I'm fearful, horrible fearful. As is only sensible, seeing as how you ain't never been up no rigging in your long life before. Climb trees, did ya? Back home?" "Yes, all the time, but 'tis the same, only excepting that trees has a nice little habit of staying still, while a ship, well, she hovers and she bucks, and she skips and she dances like a demented horse. But you'll get used to it. Up you go. The wind's against your back here, on the larboard side, pressing you into the ratlins. You couldn't fall if you tried. Get going, John. Growl as you may, but go you must." John looked up at the rigging and back at the gunner's mate. Jabez's eyes were kind, but his mouth was set in a firm line. There was no hope for it. John could see that. It'd be 100 times better to go aloft for the first time with Jabez Barton than to be bullied and beaten up at the end of Mr. Higgins's cane. He took a deep breath, squeezed his eyes shut for a moment, then made a grab at the ratlins. The tarry ropes felt reasonably strong and solid. He stood for a moment on the hammock netting, learning the shape of the rungs under his hands, feeling the rise and fall of the ship on the swell. Then he began to climb. "It's only a ladder. I'm only climbing a ladder," he told himself. "I mustn't look down. Don't look down. Look at the ratlines. Look at my hands." He was a long way up, and his breath was beginning to shorten with the effort, and he felt a tugging on the ropes beneath his hands and feet as the wind veered round to the south, and the masts and sails took the strain. The ratlines seemed to lurch and shiver in his grasp. Whistles and muffled shouted commands came from below. Sailors were running about on the deck, working the ropes, loosening and tightening, manoeuvring the sails to catch the best of the wind. They seemed miles below, horribly far down. The wind had freshened and was plucking at his clothes, tearing the tails of his shirt out of the waistband of his trousers. He was hit by a blast of fear that turned his knees to water and made his head spin. He clung tightly to the ratlines, unable to move. Then, from just below him, came Jarvis's rich Devon voice, raised in song. Oh, a sailor's life is a merry life, they rub young girls their hearts' delight. He broke off. Ain't the moment for stargazing, young John. The sun's got a way to go before he goes to bed. Twon't be till then that the stars pop out. I can't go on, whispered John. But Jarvis started singing again. Leaving them behind to sigh and mourn, they never know when we will return. Jarvis had climbed a little closer. His voice was now coming from directly below John's feet. Its calmness steadied him, and he felt his courage creeping back. Almost without realizing, he began to climb again. He was out of breath when he, at last, reached the platform. This was large enough to hold several men, and there was one standing on it already. Oof! Panted Jarvis, stepping up onto the platform behind him. The other man, who looked no more than 18 or 19 years old, who was wearing a bright scarlet waistcoat, laughed. We don't often see you up here in these lofty parts, Mr. Barton. I should think not, said Jarvis, recovering his breath. Used to climb about like a monkey, I did. I first came up to sea, but now I'm a gunner's mate. It's a fine, respectable thing to be. I leave the monkey business to you likes of you. This young lad, John, is what brings me up aloft. I'm showing him the way. Now, John, this gentleman is the captain of the maintop. Since we've been on the subject of monkeys, I'd venture to say there's not an animal in Africa that could run about the rigging more handily than him. As if someone aloft had heard, a shout came from above, and a moment later the young seaman was racing up the next set of ratlines. He was lost to view for a while behind the sail's billowing canvas. Then John saw a flash of red from almost the highest point of the mast. Men were still working right up there, spread along the yard of the topmast sail. To his horror, John saw the young maintop captain take off along the yard from which the highest sail hung. He was balancing on the swaying spar of wood as the ship lurched beneath him, with nothing for his hands to hold on to. When he reached the very tip, he dropped down to straddle the yard and began to work at some invisible arrangement of ropes. The sight of him had made John shudder. It had done him good too. The platform where he was standing, which a minute ago had seemed so horribly high and exposed, now seemed quite low down and safe. Mr. Barton, sir, said a familiar voice. Kit had appeared, swinging himself up round the outside of the platform, all the agility of a squirrel. Mr. Torce's compliments, and would you oblige him by returning immediately? 2 of the cutlass cases have shipped water, and the cutlasses are in a shocking condition, Mr. Torce says. He put his head on one side. Done all to blazes, he said, in an imitation of Mr. Torce's voice, and the devil's to pay. Oh, here's trouble. Jarvis's broad forehead was creased now with a worried frown. He appeared not to have noticed Kit's play acting. Resting cutlasses. He'd already taken hold of the ratlines and was starting to go down. Get down below, you 2 lads, quick as you can. We all hands to cleaning and polishing. Resting cutlasses. Very nasty. Kit had started to follow Jarvis, but he looked up and saw John's face. At the thought of climbing down, paralysing fear had gripped John again. The ratlines looked horribly loose and insubstantial seen from above. The distance down to the deck seemed immense. The swell was rising, and the ship was moving unpredictably. Rolling she came further round into the ever-strengthening wind. Kit scrambled back up again and stood beside John on the platform. He took hold of John's arm and shook it. I know how you were feeling, he said. I felt it too, the first time and many times after. Now I can go up and down like a monkey. You have to be like a monkey too. He pushed his tongue into his lower lip to make a monkey face. It looked so funny that John couldn't help smiling. I'll manage it, he managed to say. It's just this bit, the first bit, stepping out into nothing to get on the ratlines. Yes, Kit nodded. I will guide you, hand by hand, foot by foot. Look, you do like this. Your right hand here, right foot so, left hand takes hold of this one. John, watching carefully, noticed for the first time how small and delicate Kit's hands were, how slim his wrists and ankles. Look, like that you'll be fine, Kit went on. There, you've done the worst bit. Now you just go down, step by step. It's easy now. It was easy. John felt the safety of the deck come nearer and nearer. He jumped down the last few steps, bouncing triumphantly on the balls of his feet. I never thought I could do that. I never thought I'd get up there or get down again, he said, following Kit along the deck. You helped me, you really did. It was nothing. You'll be good at climbing, I'm sure of it. You only need to practice. The aptitude is there. John looked at him curiously. Kit had dropped his joking tone and sounded for a moment almost like an adult, a teacher talking to a pupil. How old are you, Kit? He asked curiously. To his surprise, a vivid blush spread over Kit's cheeks. 13, he said. Come, John, we must hurry. Mr. Torse is in a temper already. He'll be angry if we delay.